The 14-month-old H.D. Kumaraswamy government in Karnataka has fallen after nearly week-long drama and late-night assembly proceedings. The Janata Dal Secular Congress Alliance was able to muster only 99 votes in favour of a confidence motion, while the opposition led by the BJP cast 105 votes against. B.S. Yediyurappa is likely to be Chief Minister for a fourth time shortly. But how long will such a BJP government last either? To discuss this, we're joined by Krishna Prasad, political analyst and former editor-chief of Outlook, senior journalist and political commentator Ratan and Ramakrishna Upadhya, former political editor at Deccan Herald. Krishna Prasad, will it be fair to say that only Act 1 of this drama has come to an end, then that any Yediyurappa government will have a turbulent ride as well?
Well, I think it's Act 2 which is over. I mean, I think Mr. Yediyurappa was Chief Minister for a brief while when the elections took place last year. And so I think he will be in for the third time, really. I mean, this is Act 3 of a very sordid drama of Indian electoral history. Perhaps the most subversive subversion of Indian democracy which we've seen in the last few years. I think we've just seen the end of it, at least the end portion of it, the climax of it now. But I think what's in the future is something only the future will tell us. But if we are to go by history, I think we are in for a rocky ride once more. And as the Hindi saying goes, "Picture abhi baki hai."
All right, Ratan, what is the likely fate of the rebel MLAs? Is disqualification imminent after they stayed away in today's vote?
Technically speaking, yes, but you never know, because in Karnataka, all the rules of contemporary politics have been turned upside down. Like, the entire drama saw the intervention of the governor several times, the conduct of the speaker prolonging the vote for more than a week. So I think the disqualification issue will ultimately go to the Supreme Court, because now anything that is decided by the speaker will be challenged, that is for sure. And even if it is not, then the accommodation of the rebel MLAs into the new government remains very likely, which will further add to the complication if they are, disqualified from the assembly. So I think, rightly so, there is a long period of political uncertainty ahead in the state.
Let me just understand that further, right? If they don't get disqualified for staying away today and they choose to join the next government, Ratan, what capacity would they join that government in? Because the moment they choose to be members of a different party, they would have to resign membership of the party they're part of, and then would attract the anti-defection law in any case, because they're each less than 1/3 of the strength of their party, right?
That is right. That is right. So here again, I think the issue that is critical is whether the provisions of the Anti-Defection Act can be applicable to them, can be made applicable to them by either the speaker, or the issue again goes to the Supreme Court to redefine the provisions of the Anti-Defection Act. Because you see, we have seen not only in Karnataka but in other states also that, truly speaking, the anti-defection law has never really served the purpose it was meant to. So I think even if they are disqualified, well, the next government will face uncertainty again.
Ramakrishna Upadhya, is Mr. Yediyurappa's leadership of the state BJP in Karnataka unquestioned, with numbers so finely balanced? Are we likely to see any factionalism within the BJP, with different camps asking for a fair share of power?
Well, that's going to happen now that they are enjoying the sweet, news of Kumaraswamy government finally going. This whole drama began about 17 days ago when 13 MLAs, that is 10 from the Congress and 3 from JDS, went to the Speaker's office and submitted their resignations. But nothing was done on that till the Supreme Court intervened, and on the 12th, the Supreme Court asked the Speaker to give them audience and, accept the resignations personally. So that is when 10 MLAs went to the Speaker, met him personally, and the Speaker at that point of time said, out of 13 resignations he had received, 5 were in order and 8 were not in order. So we need to find out what exactly is the Speaker going to do with these resignations, bar disqualification claims. So it all depends on how this pans out, in the speaker's office, because the Yediyurappa government will also need the numbers. They have only 105 on their side, and they're banking on this 15 of the Congress and JDS coming to their side, and plus 2 independent MLAs. So that will give them a comfortable 122. But the point is, how will the speaker deal with these resignations and the applications for disqualifications? So only then will a clear picture will emerge. I don't think anything will happen in the next 2-3 days, because even the governor's office will watch the scenario over the next few days before taking. Because remember, he called Mr. Yediyurappa to form the government soon after the announced, though he was short-term majority. 3 days his government. So I'm sure he's going to be very, very cautious before calling Mr. Yediyurappa again to form the government.
Krishna Prasad, is the governor likely to follow the K.R. Narayanan informal rule of asking for letters of support and a list of MLAs, so to speak, to get a sense of how many are in support? You have a number of how many voted against the government that has just gone out, but to get a better sense of how many in number that are in favor of the government that will come in, would that be procedure that would be likely followed, or is that something that is that is advisable at this stage?
Well, in ideal circumstances, what you say is what the governor should be doing. But as you can see, over the last 17 days in specific, but actually over quite a long period of time now, Karnataka is really operating in very unideal circumstances. So there is nothing that has gone by the rule book as of now. Neither the government, nor the governor's office, nor, dare I say, the Supreme Court. The fact that we are discussing the anti-defection law and how it will apply to these 15 fellows or 18 guys who have gone away tells you that there is a lot to be explained about this current crisis. I think so. Therefore, this is not the ideal circumstances. It's really very unnatural. It's a very artificially engineered, one of the most subtly engineered, manufactured crises in Karnataka politics. And I think there is a lot to be explained by almost every side here: the ruling party, the coalition partners, the governor's office, these MLAs who have gone away. So I think none of the rules that you would think would apply in an ideal situation will apply here. But I think the key point really is, how long will Mr. Yediyurappa be able to, carry on with this kind of thing? I think you asked this question with an earlier speaker. I think, it's all up in the air. One of the things you've seen very clearly over the last 14 months is a desperation on the part of Mr. Yediyurappa to come back to power for one last shot. He is now over 75 years of age. He is technically qualified to be a member of the Margdashak Mandal. There are many people within the BJP who do not want him to occupy this office very much. In fact, his Betanwa, B.L. Santosh, who is the RSS in charge of Karnataka, has only last week been promoted to Delhi. So I think you see a lot of cross currents within the coalition, within the BJP, and therefore there's a lot to be explained. But let me make this one final simple point. I think the fact that we are discussing this anti-defection law, we are discussing the resignation, we are discussing disqualification, tells you plenty about how messy the Karnataka situation is. Most people in Delhi and Bombay don't seem to have the patience for what has happened in Karnataka. But what has happened in Karnataka is an absolute daylight murder of democracy. And I make no bones about it. The fact that these MLAs have gone away from these two parties, they have holed themselves out. It's a hostage situation in Bombay. They can't speak to people. There are people guarding them, bouncers guarding them, etc., etc. The fact that, they have made all kinds of crazy video claims, it tells you that it's a very unnatural situation. And when they come back to Karnataka, I would dare say that the situation is not going to be normal once again, because we have now seen a very different way in which the anti-defection law can be misused by political parties. And when I say parties, I mean the BJP. They have misused the anti-defection law in a really interesting way this time around. And so I think there will be plenty to explain for the BJP. The BJP has, for the last 17 days, been riding a tiger. And now that the tiger has come to a halt, they will realize what they are up to, because really this is not a natural situation, and we must take greater notice of what has happened in terms of the subversion of a mandate. I am not running away from the fact that the BJP got the most number of seats when the elections took place. That is true. but a coalition government was formed. But the manner in which these MLAs have been forced and really, fabricated to kind of leave their seats for the 4 years of their term, which is still left, tells you that there are deep flaws that have been exploited by fine lawyers sitting in Delhi and Bangalore. And I think we are in a really fine constitutional issue here. And I think we should also not forget the fact that the Supreme Court has only delivered an interim order. The interim order of the Supreme Court has many questions left unanswered, and one will want to see what the final order is. That's why we should not rush to any judgment on this issue, because the Congress Legislature Party has now implemented itself in that order because it was not a party to that order. And frankly, what is the logic for the Supreme Court to say that these MLAs can't be compelled to vote, or can't be compelled to, take part in the proceedings? I think there are too many questions on the whip, on the qualification, disqualification, on the resignations, etc. And I think Karnataka is going to be a real test case, like Arunachal Pradesh in the east was and Uttarakhand in the north was just a couple of years ago. So I think we must really hold our horses at this point of time. The fact is that they've won a mandate. They've lost the trust vote, and the BJP is in power is good for them, for the BJP. But it's a really curate's egg as we speak.
All right. Ratan Manilal, in other states, specifically what's happened in the last few weeks in Goa, where numbers were as finely balanced after the election happened, the BJP was able to move towards, although it wasn't the single largest party, move towards gathering some allies, forming power. At that point, Mr. Parrikar took charge of that government. Now you've seen large-scale defections happen from the Congress to the BJP. Those allies have been jettisoned by the BJP now. Out of power, is there the risk for the Congress in Karnataka to bleed even more when all of y'all are questioning the stability of the Yediyurappa incoming government, so to speak? Is there a chance that to stabilize such a government, further eating away at the margins that the Congress could happen?
There is every likelihood, in my opinion, that many more defections from the Congress, or so to say, desertions from the Congress, could be seen. Because you see, I don't see any central kind of a leadership or a guidance coming to the state leaders in Karnataka from either Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who doesn't want to be president, who is not the president, and in his absence, I don't really know. In fact, nobody knows who is guiding the Karnataka Congress as far as the High Command is concerned. So, in that situation, like what happened with the rebel Congress MLAs a few weeks ago, if they took this decision on their own to quit the party and get away from the coalition, then the same thing can happen with other MLAs also. And because there is there is no incentive in the Congress party in terms of leadership, in terms of guidance, in terms of a future strategy to come back or bounce back to power in Karnataka, or for that matter, in any state. So in that situation, I think further desertions from the Congress are very likely. And I can foresee that even a few numbers, even a small number, if that happens from the Congress, then the next BJP government will be much more comfortable as far as numbers are concerned, because there is no one in the Congress to even call them to stay back except for Mr. Shivakumar. But as we have seen in the last couple of weeks, that Mr. Shivakumar is most probably acting on his own. There doesn't appear to be any guideline or any support to him from the Congress leadership from top to bottom.
Ramakrishna Upadhya,
in that situation, those Congress MLAs who do stay with the party for the Shivakumar.
Ramakrishna Upadhya, you had a point to make.
Yeah, you see, Krishna Prasad was saying that there's an absolute murder of democracy in Karnataka. Yes, it's a murder of democracy, but it's not the first time. It's happened many times, not just in Karnataka, in many parts of the country, and the Congress party was responsible for any number of those murders. So let us also not forget that the Congress was also guilty of engineering defections from JDS earlier. So it's not happened for the first time. At least there was the sense of relief now in Karnataka that this non-performing government has gone. You see, it was from day one. It was an unnatural beast, because the 37 members party ruling over 78 members party. So it was just not going to work. And we saw from day one that there was internal bickerings among them, and the even MLAs belonging to the Congress were sniping at the JDS, and including Mr. Kumaraswamy. They were saying that we consider Mr. Siddaramaiah to be our chief minister, which annoyed Mr. Kumaraswamy to great extent. So there was absolutely no coordination at all between the two political parties, and we hardly saw any governance. So that is one good riddance, but that doesn't mean that the BJP will be able to offer a very good government. They are going to face immense problems because they are going to depend on this, the defectors to form the government. I would think that the BJP would be, well advised to go for the dissolution of the assembly and then call for fresh elections so that people can choose whom they want and which government should be running this. On the question of disqualification and the resignations, the speaker should have taken a decision by now. But he's also dilly-dallying, and the Supreme Court gave him all the powers. You decide on these things. We leave it to you. But he has not taken any decision so far. And how he's going to go about this also a big question, because even the confidence motion. I mean, I've never seen or heard a confidence motion running for 4 days, not just one day. I mean, this went on and on, and Supreme Court was very, very patient. And they could have intervened at any point of time, but they let the speaker have his say. And fortunately, finally, the wisdom dawned on both the ruling party and the speaker that this cannot go on, because it was embarrassing for the entire state. To watch this kind of a tamasha going on in the assembly, where members had nothing to say and they went on for hours together. And the speaker allowed Mr. Siddaramaiah to raise a point of order. And as far as the parliamentary procedures, I know the point of order is for about 30 seconds or 1 minute. And this man went on speaking for 3 hours and the speaker did not intervene.
Right.
So we could see how, the assembly proceedings were being, just allowed to prolong for so long that, the government was not ready to take up the trust vote. Mr. Kumaraswamy would have earned a lot of goodwill if he had realized that he had lost the majority and resigned on the 18th itself after taking the trust vote on the first day.
On the point,
for another 5 days.
let me ask you one final question. Mr. Upadhya. On the point you brought up goodwill, you brought up the point that you would like to see elections happen. This is something I've asked everybody who's appeared on the Primetime Debate in the last week. As and when these elections happen, Mr. Upadhya, how do each of these three parties go back to the people and say we are proud of anything that happened in the last year and a half, and therefore we justify getting your vote?
Absolutely. I mean, nobody is left with credibility,
right,
including the BJP. Nobody is left with credibility because the way the BJP has gone about, luring these MLAs is really, really disgusting. I mean, people of Karnataka are disgusted the way the politics has been carried on by all the three parties. But you tell me what choice the people have. They have to choose, one among them. That's the whole tragedy of this democratic system. But I would say that all three don't deserve to come back to power.
Okay. On that note, gentlemen, thank you for making time on the Primetime Debate to get your assessment on what's happened this evening in Karnataka and what's likely to unfold over coming days. If you have been, thank you for watching.